Okay, let's be honest. Who hasn't dreamed of it? You know, stepping into some kind of high-tech suit and instantly becoming a superhero. It's the ultimate power fantasy, right? We see it all the time on the big screen with characters like Iron Man. But how close is that fantasy to what we can actually do today? And that's really the big question we're going to dig into. Could we actually build a suit like that? We're going to take a journey from that shiny superhero dream all the way to the complex, challenging, and honestly, super fascinating world of real-life powered exoskeletons. Because the dream, flight, being invincible, having your own personal power source, it slams right into the reality of what this tech is actually used for. Things like restoring movement for someone with a spinal cord injury, or making a factory worker stronger, and all of the incredibly tough ethical questions that come along for the ride. All right, so let's start there. Let's break down the actual science and see what it would really truly take to build an Iron Man suit. And, spoiler alert, the laws of physics, they have a few things to say about it. It really boils down to three absolutely massive hurdles. First, how in the world do you power the thing? Second, what do you even build it out of so it doesn't just crumple? And third, and this is a big one, how do you stop the suit and the person inside it from literally melting? Yeah, astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson pretty much nails it right here. The number one problem is just basic thermodynamics. To get that much power out of such a small space, well, it would generate an insane amount of heat. Tony Stark's big heroic moment would probably end before he could even get a cool one-liner out. And check this out. This is where you can really see the numbers. A lithium-ion battery pack big enough for just 30 minutes of flight. It would be way too heavy to even get off the ground. And sure, nuclear fission has incredible energy density, but you'd need a whole power plant and a ton of lead shielding strapped to your back. The fictional Arc Reactor, well, it just gets to ignore all these pesky little rules of science. So let's pretend you had a magic power source. You'd still have that massive heat problem. Both the suit's own electronics and just your body heat would build up like crazy. The only real solution would be something like the liquid cooling suits NASA developed for astronauts. Basically, a whole network of tubes pumping coolant all around your body just to keep everything from overheating. So with the whole Iron Man fantasy, let's just put that on the shelf for a minute. Let's move on and look at what real-world exoskeletons are actually like. Now, they might not fly, but what they can do is, you could argue, way more important. Okay, before we go any further, we gotta understand a really key difference here. On one side, you have passive exoskeletons. Think of them as unpowered braces that just help spread out weight and reduce strain. But on the other side, you have powered or active exoskeletons. These are the ones that use motors and electronics to actually boost your strength or even create movement for people who've lost it. And this is where the technology gets to be a real game changer. And that brings us right to their first huge application, medicine. This is where you see the incredible, unbelievable promise of this technology, but it's also where the really complicated ethical challenges start popping up. I mean, the promise is just, it's life-changing. We're talking about devices that can help people with paralysis walk again. They can make stroke recovery faster. And it goes beyond just the physical stuff. There are huge psychological benefits too. Just the ability to have a conversation with someone at eye level, that feeling of hope, of confidence, it's huge. But, and this is a big but, here comes the peril. With a price tag around 80,000 euros, these are not exactly accessible to everyone. And that makes you ask some hard questions, right? Does this tech accidentally push the idea that disability is a problem that needs to be fixed for each person instead of something society should accommodate? Does it risk taking focus and money away from building things like ramps that help everybody? And you see this exact same double-edged sword in a totally different world, industry. We're moving from healing bodies to augmenting them for a job. So the promise for workers is super clear, preventing those awful, back-breaking injuries that you get from years of heavy lifting. And for the bosses, well, it means a safer crew, less time lost to injuries, and lower insurance costs. On paper, it looks like a total win-win. But here's the catch. The very same technology that's meant to protect workers could also be used to exploit them. I mean, if you're in a low-wage job, how much power do you really have to say no? And what happens when the suit starts collecting data on every single move you make? Or worse, starts learning your job so well that one day it could just replace you? It creates this whole new potential for control and overwork. So, from the factory floor, we're now jumping to the battlefield. And this is probably the most ethically loaded application of them all. We're talking about life and death, global security, the stakes just don't get any higher.
The military's interest is, intensely practical. Soldiers in the field can carry loads up to 60 or 70 kilograms. Think about that. An exoskeleton can help them carry that weight, which means less fatigue, fewer long-term injuries, and the ability to march farther and faster. The whole idea is to make each soldier safer and more effective.
But the peril here is it's profound. You have to ask, does this tech risk turning soldiers into dehumanized, almost robotic systems? Does it lead to something called function creep, or military leaders might try more dangerous missions just because the tech makes it seem possible? This could kick off brand new arms races and create totally new weaknesses, like an enemy hacking into a soldier's suit on the battlefield.
And all of this brings us to this really critical idea: dual-use technology. It means the exact same breakthrough that helps someone walk again can be tweaked and used on the battlefield. And that puts a huge ethical responsibility on the researchers and the people funding them to think about these other uses right from the very start. And that really hits on a core truth here. Technology is never neutral. It isn't just about what we can build, it's about the values we choose to build into it. As this quote points out, those judgments are totally inescapable. We are always, consciously or not, making choices about what we think is desirable and what problems we think are worth solving. And those choices get baked right into the machines we create. So, how do we get this right? Well, it takes a real commitment to what's called responsible innovation. That means bringing everyone who's affected by the technology into the design room. It means thinking about those dual-use possibilities from day one, being honest about our own biases, and not overhyping what these things can actually do. And in the end, powered exoskeletons force us to ask a really fundamental question, one that goes way beyond this single piece of tech. As we keep building these incredible tools that augment our bodies and our minds, are we focused on enhancing our shared humanity? Or are we slowly, maybe without even realizing it, building the tools to replace it? That's the question we all have to answer.